Okay, so we took our musical alphabet and we learned that the letters go from A through G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now, if you look at your keyboard here, here's the notes on the keyboard. Here's the note A right here. And you notice we have 2 black keys, 3 black keys, and it repeats again, 2 black keys, and it's going to be 3 black keys. We're only concerned with this much of the keyboard though, from here to here. It starts here on this note, starts here on this note right here, and the same note is right here, because it's one below these 2 black keys here, and there's 2 black keys right here, this one below, same note. So these are called the white keys. And what we have here is, here's our note A, right? But on the keyboard, we start everything on this note here, the note C. So here we have the note C. The next white key above that is the note D. Okay, and then the next white key above that is the note E. And then the next white key is F. And then the next white key is G. And then A. And then B. And we repeat. And we start over again at C. So that's really important to memorize. You gotta memorize C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. That's the basis of our entire music theory, is this instrument. And you notice the 2 black keys and the 3 black keys. That is where we have this oddball in music, where everybody keeps asking, why is there no note between E and F? Why is E here and there's no black key in between F? Likewise, why is there a B here and no black key to the next note? C. There's no black key right here, is there? No, there isn't. And there's no black key right here, is there? No, there isn't. This is the way the piano is designed, and it was designed, you know, close to 800 years ago. And the configuration has been set for, you know, over 800 years. So this is how they do it. This is where they keep track of where they are. 2 and 3, 2 and 3, and it repeats. It just keeps repeating on to that way and to this way of the keyboard. It just repeats. Okay, so the music theory that we learned is all based on this instrument right here. So if we go C, D, E, F, E and F have no black key in between there. Okay, it's because of this instrument is why we don't have a note in between E and F, because on this instrument those notes are next to each other physically. So that's why there's no E sharp and there's no F flat. Technically there is an E sharp, which would be the note F, and technically there is an F flat, which would be the note E. But for practical purposes right now, we just need to know that there's no black key in between E and F and no black key in between B and C. Okay, if you look at your chromatic number line, let's start on C. We'll have the note C. The next note is C sharp. Where's that? Well, here's D. That's C. And that's D. So what's this note? That's C sharp. Here's C. C sharp. D. D sharp, E. If you're going down, you could go E. We could call that D sharp, or we could also call it E flat, because we're coming down from E. E to E flat. Okay. D, D flat, C. So C, C sharp or D flat, D, D sharp or E flat, E. Now there's no E sharp, is there? So we just have F, E, F. Then we have F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, and B. Back to C again. Here's C, and here's C. So we got C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C. Now you could name it going down. C, B. Instead of calling this A sharp, you could call it from B. You call it B flat. Here's A. So this must be A flat. Here's G. This must be G flat. Here's E, or F. That's F. So what's that? Oh, E and F still, right? You could call this F flat. And well, that's sometimes done in some scales later on, but for today, we don't want to worry about that. So we're just going to call this F and this one E. And then here's E, so this is E flat. That's D. That's D flat. And that's C. Again, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C. Going down, C, B, B flat, A flat, G, G flat, F, E flat, D flat, and back to C. The distance from this note to this note is what we call a half step. One half step. And the distance between this note and this note is called one half step. So this is going up in half steps. Half step, half step, half step, half step. Now, between E and F, that is also a half step because there's no black key in between. So we count this as a half step. E to F is a half step. And on the guitar, that's your open string to your first fret. On the first string or the sixth string. E, F is a half step. F to F sharp is a half step. F sharp to G is a half step. G to A sharp is a half step. Half step, half step, half step. Now B to C, that's a half step right there because there's no black key in between. So that's B and that's C. So these are all half steps. So the distance between C and C sharp is one half step. The distance between C and D is what? Well, that would be two half steps, right? C to C sharp is one half step. C sharp to D is another half step. So you count 1, 2. Here's C. Here's one half step. There's two half step. That's two frets on the guitar. And two half steps is also called one whole step. So two half steps equals one whole step. So here's C. Here's a half step above. Another half step above that. Now, another half step above that would be D sharp. Another half step here. So the distance from C to C sharp is a half step. Now, if you play half steps together, that doesn't sound too good. They're used sometimes to create suspense in movies, you know. But for the most part, we're going to avoid them for this lesson. Anyway, C to C sharp is a half step. C sharp to D is a half step. So C to D is two half steps or one whole step. Now, the next note here is E on the white keys. So D to E is also two half steps or one half step, two half steps, or one whole step, right? So you got a whole step, and then what's this? A half step. So the white keys, you play whole step, half step. C, D, E, F. Whole step, half step. Okay, now, the next note here, half step above, so this would be a whole step above that note, F. So the white keys give you this: a whole step, half step, then a whole step, another whole step, another whole step, and then a half step. So the scale is, that's called the major scale, and that's whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Whole step, half step, whole step, half step. So we got whole step, half step, whole step, half step. So that formula for the major scale is set. Whole step, half step, because it's built into this piano instrument, which is evolved from 1200 AD or 1150 or so. First keyboard instruments are around that time, 1150, and then they modified the keyboard into a harpsichord, a clavichord, and then later in the 1700s they came out with a piano. And the piano keyboard and the clavinet keyboard and the clavichord are all identical to each other. And the very early keyboards were a little different than these, but the late Renaissance to Baroque to Romantic period is all the keyboards had the same layout: 2 black keys, 3 black keys, 2 black keys, 3 black keys. That's where we get our music theory from, is the analysis of the notes based on this physical layout of the keyboard. And this is why in all music schools they have a piano proficiency requirement, because this is the basis of all music theory, the piano. And piano music has been with us since the beginning. So music theory is all based on piano. So to graduate from a college with a degree in music, they have what's called a piano proficiency, where you have to learn how to play a little bit of stuff on the piano. Even though it may not be your instrument, you may be playing a different instrument as your main instrument, but you still need to learn a little bit of piano, because it makes learning music theory so much easier when you know piano. Us guitar players have avoided it, for many, many years, until we're forced to have to sit down and learn piano. But the thing is, when you do sit down and learn the piano, the music theory all seems to make more sense when you see the layout of the keys, and you translate it to the strings and the frets as well. Now, all you horn players out there, it's the same thing. If you play piano and you play saxophone, you'll have a much better understanding of chord progressions and chords if you know where they lay on the piano. Okay, so we got whole step, or half step right here. Whole step, half step. And that's the C major scale. So that formula, whole step, half step, holds true. So the notes on the keyboard are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And the sharps and flats, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, and C again. And it repeats again and again and again and again. Okay, so if you sit there and look at your keyboard, you have a multiple layout of 2 keys and 3 keys all the way up and down the keyboard. So the patterns just repeat themselves. So here, just looking at what's called one octave. Okay, so the musical alphabet is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. On the piano, that would be A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Right? Starting on A. But A gives us some A minor chord when we start that. Everybody likes to start on C with the piano. So we go C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So the piano is the basis of all our music theory. So you guys need to, at the very least, get a diagram of a piano on paper and have it near your desk or on the wall or something. I suggest picking up some kind of keyboard instrument somewhere. The cheapest ones are those little Casio tones and fake Casio tones out of China. There's a whole bunch on eBay from $25, $39, $49. They're really cheesy keyboards, but at least you can get a tone out of it and learn theory. And you can find used ones on eBay and Craigslist. I've bought one for as low as $10, which was a Casio full-size 61-key keyboard for $10. And the shipping was going to kill me on it, so I drove out to the person's house to pick it up. So I only had to pay $20 in gas. All right. So anyway, that's the notes on the keyboard, and you've got a chromatic number line. And the chromatic notes on the keyboard are C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C. And going down, we're going C, B, B flat, A flat, G, G flat, F, E flat, D flat, C. So the chromatic notes follow the number line, and it repeats every octave. Every time you have a note C, there's another note C right here, and then another one higher up. You can't see it on this video, but it's up here. And that's the way that the instrument is laid out. That's the way music is laid out. Okay, so that's the musical alphabet and notes on the keyboard. Basics. Level 1 basics, 1.10. Okay, now let's move on to how to calculate half steps. Okay, calculating half steps. If you have two notes, you just see how many half steps are in between, like C and D. Well, here's one. C to D sharp is 1 half step. D sharp to C sharp to D is 1 half step, so 2 half steps. What if you have this note here? Well, how many half steps is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 half steps. How many is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 half steps, right? That's how you calculate half steps. You just count up one at a time. What's 4 half steps? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? What's 5 half steps? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's 6 half steps? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7 half steps? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? So that's how half steps are calculated. How do you calculate whole steps? Well, a whole step is what? 2 half steps. So here's one note. The next whole step above is going to have a black key in between. The next whole step above that's going to have a black key in between. But now here's the rub. Check this out. If we go to here, there's no black key in between, so that's not a whole step, that's a half step. So to make it a true whole step, we go to here. There's a whole step, and then a whole step, and then a whole step, and then a whole step. So whole steps throw a little bit out of whack here. We got a whole step, then we go up to here, whole step, whole step, whole step, whole step. So a lot of analysis of scales is used whole steps and half steps. It's using whole steps and half steps. So if you have any note, this note and this note, how many half steps is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 half steps. How many whole steps is that? 1, 2, 3 whole steps, right? So here's 1 whole step, 2 whole steps, 3 whole steps. 6 half steps is 3 whole steps. All right, so when you have a note here and you have a note here, you can count the half steps. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 half steps. You can count the whole steps. 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half whole steps, okay? 4 and a half whole steps. So that's how you count whole steps and half steps. If you have a note here and another note here, how many half steps is that? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 half steps is between this note C and this note G sharp. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? So that's whole steps and half steps. So if I take any note and I want to go up a half step, I just go to the very next key on the piano. If I take any note and I want to go up a whole step, I go up 2 keys, with either black or white keys. Always count 2 keys. If I want to go up a whole step, it's 2 keys. If I want to go up a half step, it's 1 key. So if I have a chord, I can take one of the notes and go and add a whole step to the top of it. right? Or a whole step there. I can take these chords and modify some of these notes here by adding whole steps and half steps. That's a whole other subject of creating chords, but whole steps and half steps are based on this keyboard, and half steps are 1 fret or 1 key, and whole steps are 2 frets or 2 keys. So that's calculating whole steps and calculating half steps. Now let's take a look at these on the guitar.